Today is September 11th, 2015. My name is Joe Todd. This is an interview with Gayle Bressler in Claremore, Oklahoma. Ma'am, where were you born?
Huh?
Where were you born?
In Murray, Utah.
Murray, Utah.
Murray, in Utah.
When's your birthday?
June 17th, 40.
1940. Who was your father?
William Wallace Allen.
And your mother?
Viola Temperance Robinson Allen.
Robinson Allen.
Yeah.
Did you go through school in Murray?
No.
No. When did you start the school?
Here, there, and everywhere. No, I went to what they called Oakwood Elementary. That was in the Cottonwood Canyon area.
Is that in Utah?
That's in Utah.
Utah.
Yeah.
And when did you graduate from high school?
When did I graduate?
Yes.
Like in 1955.
1955. From what high school?
What high school?
Yeah.
Hill Air Force Base High School.
Oh. Was your father in the Air Force?
Yes, he was in the Army.
Okay. Army Air Corps?
No.
Oh.
He
was in the Army.
Built and blew up things.
Okay. Hill Air Force Base High School.
Mm-hmm. I was in Utah.
In Utah. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so your father was in the Army, but you went to a school at an Air Force base.
Yeah. That's where he was stationed.
Yeah. In your schooling, who was your favorite teacher?
My favorite teacher? Mr. Smith.
And where did he teach?
Biology.
Where?
Where? At the high school.
Okay.
At the Air Force Base.
Okay.
Yeah.
So being in the military, you must have moved around quite a bit.
Yeah, we moved an awful lot. More than I would have enjoyed, I think, as a kid. Don't get to make too many friends because you make a friend and next thing either they're moving or you're going, and it makes it rough to have friendships when your parents make a career out of the military and they're being sent here and there. So, yeah.
What did you do after high school?
What did I do? I went in the Army.
Army?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you go for your basic training?
Fort McClellan, Alabama, in Anniston, Alabama.
Tell me about basic training.
In some ways it was rough, and some ways, to me, it was wasting my time. I couldn't see any reason for us to have to carry a 40-pound pack or march around out there. I went there to learn something, not play it. To me, that was like playing, because that isn't what I wanted to do. So I figured I should be learning something that would benefit me when I was sent to wherever they were going to send us, and have the training to do what they wanted.
Was that still in the Women's Army Corps?
Huh?
Was that still the Women's Army Corps at that time?
Yeah, they called us the Wax.
The Wax, yes.
The Wacky Wax.
How long did basic last?
6 weeks.
6 weeks. After basic, where did you go?
Korea.
Korea.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do in Korea?
Nursing.
Now, did you have nurses training?
Yes, I did before when I was going to school, different places, I would work in different hospitals, different clinics, wherever I could get that they would let us go in and, help. and because I was interested in nursing and the medical, and so a lot of times they needed extra help because they were short of nurses or short of medical help, and if we could pass it, they'd give us a test. If you pass the test, you got to work with them, and that's what I did.
But did you have any formal nurses training?
Yes, I had my senior year in high school. I only had to go to school for one class, and the rest of the time I spent at the U of A taking nurses training.
U of A. That's
University.
U of A is University of.
It was through Alabama,
Okay.
but we did it, now it'd be by computer, but there the teacher had all the paperwork and we would study that way,
Okay.
so.
Okay. That was at Hill Air Force Base? Was
Yeah,
that-
at Hill
okay.
Air Force Base,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Tell me about going to Korea. How'd you go to Korea?
How did I go? I didn't want to go. And after the training, they came in and they were handing out on papers where you were going. I get to go home for a while and visit my folks. And when they handed me mine, he says, "No, you don't." And I looked at it and I said, "Korea?" He said, "Yeah." He says, "You were in the top 4. He said, "You're going off to Korea now." He says, "They really need nurses." He said, "You've got the training." And he says, they asked for the top ones, the top 6, to be sent to Korea. So,
You recall the date you went to Korea?
do I recall it?
Do you recall the date you went to Korea?
Well, when I got to Korea,
Yeah.
it was cold
It's cold.
because it was in December.
Yeah.
And
December of what year? Do you recall?
what year?
Yeah.
1956.
1956. What'd you do in Korea?
Nursing, taking care of the wounded as they would bring them in to us by helicopter or in ambulances and cars. A lot of them, the guys were carrying them and helping them, and they had them on litters. Any way they could get them into us after the medical corps out on the field had got to them, then they'd bring them into us. And
Now, was it the war still going on when you were there?
it was more or less over, but we were still getting wounded soldiers to
Okay.
come in, yeah.
And where was the hospital you were working?
It was in Seoul.
Seoul. Okay. Did the hospital have a name?
Oh, don't ask me to pronounce it. Yeah, it had a name. I can't pronounce
Yeah.
it the way they said it, so.
What unit were you assigned to? Were you assigned to a unit,
A surgery unit,
a surgery unit?
yeah.
What did you do in the surgery unit?
I'd set up the trays for the surgeons, have their instruments ready and whatever they needed. I would set up the trays and help put their gowns on so after they'd wash, so they didn't have to touch anything until they got into whoever they were going to take care of. So,
Now, were you actually in the operating room?
yep,
You were a surgical nurse?
yep.
So what does a surgical nurse do?
Well, you hand them. I was handing them these instruments as he'd need, a scalpel or the sutures or whatever they called for. I'm standing there next to him and handing him whatever instruments he wanted. So it depended on if they had to amputate something, then they had these different types of saws and cutters, and we'd hand them the different things, and we'd hand them these containers that would catch the blood and that, so they could test it, make sure they didn't have any diseases or hadn't picked up something along the way. And and that, so that's what I did.
Okay. Now, after the doctor, do you recall the doctor's name that you worked with?
Dr. Bogus,
Vargas.
yeah. Don't ask me how he spelled Bogus.
Now, did the after the doctor did the surgery, did you help stitch up the patient or anything?
Yeah, I'd help close them up, and
Yeah.
then they move them out as elderly, orderly, not elderly.
Yeah.
The orderly would be bringing the next one in.
Okay.
We could have 3 or 4 within an hour, and so it was just a continuation
Yeah.
of seeing different types of wounds and doing different things and having to get clean trays all the time. So
Now, did you have to clean up the operating room before the next patient came in?
we didn't. Sometimes we did. A lot of times we didn't have the time.
Yeah.
It would just be the next one in, and they just bring in a new tray of instruments. So
And how long do you work in the hospital?
the 3 years I was over there.
Okay. Have any contact with the local people in Korea?
How many?
Did you have any contact with the local people
Yeah,
in Korea?
some, because some of the women would come that were going to have babies, and they didn't have any other medical, or a lot of them had come that had been wounded by the shelling and different things, and they'd come in because they knew we were medical
Yeah.
and could take care of them. So we see North and South
Yeah.
Koreans that would come in. So
Any-
seen a lot of babies being born.
Yep.
And that wasn't supposed to be what we were there for.
Yeah.
That's what they told us anyway. You're not here to be delivering all these babies, but the women, they wanted it done in the hospital where they were safe. They didn't want to be out in the fields or along the road somewhere having their baby if they could get to a medical center first. Yeah,
Now, where were your quarters? Where did you stay?
in a tent.
And around the hospital, or was there a
Yeah,
base?
they were big tents they set up, and we'd sleep on cots in the tents.
Okay.
That way they could call us, or when there was a lot of wounded coming in, they knew they were coming, they could come and holler at us, and if we didn't answer, they had a horn that they could blow, and you'd about jump out of your skin if they blew it. Figure we were going to be bombed or something, because they usually didn't blow it unless we were told we were going to bug out because we had to move.
Yep.
So, but that's most of the time they just come in the tent and turn on the floodlight and say, "We've got to get busy. They're coming fast now." So we just go ahead and get up and off we go.
What'd you do in your off time?
What? Oh, I read and wrote letters home. They couldn't get mail, but I wrote letters because they didn't have any way to get to the post office. And a lot of it, we weren't supposed to be sending information home anyway.
Yeah.
So a lot of times my mother would say she'd get a letter and 80% of it would be blacked out. So I told her, yeah, I must have said too much about what we were doing and where and what was going on, and
How-
I just didn't like it.
How often did you go down to downtown Seoul?
Maybe if I was lucky, maybe twice in a month.
Okay. What did you do in Seoul when you went to town?
Oh, we'd go down there and look in the different, well, we call them stores here. They're like little shacks that they'd set up, and when they'd be selling clothing that they'd made, and scarves, and different little figurines that some of the older men would carve, and just odds and ends that they had, anything to get some American money or get the Americans to buy them. And
What was their attitude, the people in the shops?
most of them were very friendly to us. They wanted the Americans, the South Korean people, they wanted us there. They didn't want us to leave. When we were packing up to go, they kept telling us, no, no, stay, stay. Because they knew we had medicines and medical, and we had money. The kids would practically knock you down to run to get to you, because they knew we had candy and gum and things that they didn't have, and sometimes we'd have fruit that they didn't have because their government was hanging on to, they'd send packages in to us. We were lucky if we got them. We could tell they'd been opened and a lot of the stuff already taken out. Anything that was edible would disappear real quick out of them. So.
Do you have any contact with the North Korean soldiers that were brought into the hospital?
Yeah, we took care of them.
What was their attitude, the North Koreans?
They didn't want us there. A lot of their officers would bring in their wounded, and they're standing there with a gun and trying to communicate with us to take care of their wounded. And we're trying to say no, no, and they're saying yes and pointing a gun at you. And so you decide, well, I better, somebody's gonna get hurt.
So the North Koreans actually had weapons in the hospital?
Yeah, they'd come in there with guns to patch somebody up. Yeah, they had their guns. And they looked like big long bayonets that they carried with them, and they'd bring them in with them. They wanted their wounded taken care of. As soon as we'd sew them up or do something, stop them from bleeding and that, they'd grab them and off they go. And we don't know where they went. They'd go back into the areas, in the wood-like areas, and we wouldn't see them again. We don't know if the people ended up living or dying. Some of them did die, and it was hard for the doctors to explain why this person had died or why they had to take his arm or his leg off. And they just didn't appreciate the doctors doing it, and us nurses, we weren't supposed to be helping them. We were just women. We weren't supposed to be there and helping them. They wanted just doctors. And they give us a bad time. The doctors say no, that the nurse had to help. And they'd show them why. We were handing them the different things and sewing them up. But the North Koreans, they'd bring their wounded in. They wanted them taken care of, but they didn't want us as women to touch them.
Yeah.
We were low women.
Did you go to Korea by boat, by ship?
Yeah.
Do you recall the ship you were on?
Hmm?
Do you recall the ship that you were on?
No, I don't.
Tell me about the trip to Korea on the ship.
It was long, and a lot of us got very sick. It had been in the bottom of an ocean, and it was one they pulled up, and it had that sour smell. And when you'd eat, everything had a sour, musty smell, and the food had that taste to it, like it had been in the water too long. And we were just glad to get to where we could get on land again instead of this up and down in the water.
Yeah. How long did the trip take?
4 days.
4 days. Now, did you come home by ship?
No, I flew home.
You flew home.
Yep.
Where'd you land?
Where'd I land? Washington, D.C.
What do you think about coming back to the States?
I was glad I'm back on U.S. soil. Thank God. I'm back home. I don't have to worry anymore. Somebody gonna shoot me or take me because they needed something done, and I was free again.
Yeah. What'd you do after you got home?
When I got home, well, I took some time off and went and visited my two sisters. They were in California. I got on a train and went and visited them, and then went home to my mom and dad for a while. When I left California, I got on the bus. I figured I'm not in any rush to get home. I'm on U.S. soil. So I spent 5 days on a Greyhound bus traveling to get back to Utah.
Yeah. And when did you get your discharge?
Where?
When?
When? In 1959.
You recall the date you were discharged?
It was in June. I don't know, remember the date. I know it was in the summer. It was June something.
So what did you do after you got your discharge?
I just more or less enjoyed being free and not having to report to anyone or do any more medical things for a while. I decided maybe this isn't what I want to do, but I ended up doing it anyway. After a week of not working and not doing anything, I was getting very frustrated. And I said, well, I got to get back into medical. I don't like this not doing anything day by day. So when I got back to my folks, I went back and ended up working at a hospital there. So I worked at a VA hospital in Utah for 3 months, and then I met the gentleman that I got married to. That was a real quick
Yeah.
getting together. When we first met, we thought, no, wouldn't work at all. And then later on, we went with my brother and sister out for an evening and come back, and he decided I was the right one for him. And so I talked to him, and we were of the same religion, and I told him I was a churchgoer and expected my husband to be one. I didn't want a smoker or a drinker because my dad was an alcoholic and he smoked continually, so, and I didn't want that atmosphere in my home.
Yeah.
So and we ended up, everybody was arguing where they were going to have our wedding, and so we just took off, went to Las Vegas, and we eloped and got married. Come
What's your
back
husband?
and told them.
What's your husband's first name? What was your husband's first name?
Otto.
Otto.
Yeah, Otto.
Now, the VA hospital you worked in, where in Utah? Was it Salt Lake City?
Yeah.
Okay. And when did you come to Oklahoma? When did you come to Oklahoma?
When I come to Oklahoma, I came here in June of this year.
Okay. Why did you come
I
here?
was in Fayetteville, Arkansas. That's where we ended up living, my husband and our children. We bought a farm in Arkansas. We had 6 children.
Yeah.
So we lived there, and when he passed away, I was home alone because my kids had all grown up and were married. And after I was falling, and the last time I fell, the doctor says, that's it. You've got to go where somebody's there to watch you all the time. With your falling, you're going to end up really hurting yourself, and nobody's going to be there to help you. So I went to the Fayetteville Veterans Home in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I was there for 6 years. And then my kids decided they were all here in Oklahoma, going to get Mom where she's closer. It don't take us 2 and 3 hours to drive. They say if something bad happened, it'd be so hard for them to get there in a hurry.
Yeah.
Where here they can do it in 15, 20 minutes and be right there. So that's, they moved me here.
Your Claremore Veterans Home.
Yeah.
You like it here?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot more to do. At the Fayetteville, it was so small, and it wasn't run very good. You couldn't have things in your room hanging on the wall or anything. They wanted it to look, to me, it reminded me, it had been an old hospital. and they had closed it because they built a new one. And that was the atmosphere. I felt like I was in a hospital. Nothing on there, 2 beds in there, 2 people, and table, bedside table, and a chest of drawers were in the room. You could have a few things sitting on them, but they didn't want to hang family pictures on the wall. They said it made holes in the wall and different things like that. And when the inspectors had come through, well, this one looks too cluttered or that, because they got all their family stuff in there, and it's just too hard. If something bad happened, a fire or something, we couldn't get the people out fast enough, and I just didn't, I was getting to the point I didn't like the atmosphere at all. So the kids had tried once before to get me moved, and they didn't have an opening here at that time, and so I stayed where I was in Fayetteville. And as soon as they got an opening, they called my daughter, and she said, "Mom, we're coming to get you. You're going to Claremore to the home. They want you now." And I didn't have a chance to pack. I grabbed a few things to have for the night and for a couple of days, and then the kids went back, and when they got back, they were upset because they'd gone into the room and just dumped everything I had in boxes and put my name on the boxes. We didn't know what was in what, and it was a mess. They lost my hearing aids, and I had different things that were coming, glasses in the mail. They got sent back to the company, and then they had to find out where I was and have them routed here, and it's just been a mess. We're still getting odds and ends that they had, that they shouldn't have had, that are being, my kids are still gathering up. Yeah. They'll call, "Well, we've got this and this. I think your mom needs it."
Yeah.
So.
Would you join the Army again?
Would I join?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd join again. I would. But I wouldn't, I don't think I'd go into the medical. Yeah. I think I'd pick some nice, quiet U.S. secretary or something.
Today, when you hear basic training, what do you think of?
What did I think of it?
Yeah.
It was interesting. They got upset with me off and on when they were teaching us to shoot and to take your gun apart and put it back together and that. The sergeant that was running the class got very upset with me. He says, "Why is your gun laying all apart on the table?" I said, "You said take your gun apart." I says, "I took it." He said, "No," I said, "We're going to." I said, "Yeah, that's what you said." And I said, "So I just took it apart." And he says, "How did you know to take it apart?" I said, "Well, I did a lot of hunting with my dad, and we used guns. I'd take it apart and clean it and shoot it." And he says, "I want you to put it back together. I want everybody to watch." I just gathered up the pieces and put it back together, and he took it and pulled the trigger, and it clicked because there was no shell in there. He says, "No," he says, "that's the gun that's been put together correctly." He says, "And we're going to learn how to do that where she already knows how." And out on the firing range, I passed all their tests, the laying down, standing, kneeling, just whatever they asked us to do. I was hitting awful close a lot of the times to the target right in the middle. So, but I did, as I said, did a lot of deer hunting, pheasant hunting, duck hunting with my dad. And when we'd go, he'd give us so many shells. These are yours for the day. If you shoot them all at once, don't ask for any more. Unless you've got, he says, if you've got a bunch of birds, that's fine, you get more. But if you haven't got anything, don't ask for any more shells. He says, they're cost too much to waste. So we made sure we knew what we were doing. When we'd get home, we'd have to take the gun apart and clean it and oil them and put them back together, and then put them in the gun cabinet and make sure the cabinet got locked when everybody got their guns cleaned and put away.
When you hear Korea, what do you think of?
Hmm?
When you hear the word Korea, what do you think of?
What I think of? Blood, wounded 18, 19-year-olds. I wouldn't go back. Not even to visit.
Harry Truman.
I'd like to have shot him.
Why?
Why? His attitude toward the medical people. You got to work faster. You've got to do this. Don't even do anything for the North Koreans. You're not even supposed to help the South Koreans. It's not our war. It's their war. We're just trying to help. But we couldn't stand there when a woman's hollering and her baby's been shot or one of her children, and we couldn't tell when they came in first if they were North or South Korean. The women, we had no way of identifying where they came from. And to us, being Americans, we were going to help. You see an injured child, you're going to do what you can. You don't say go away.
Yeah.
And the soldiers, we wished they hadn't come in there because they made us very nervous. We feared sometimes we may have made a mistake. They could have gotten an infection from us or something, and because the wounds we didn't have time to really clean the wound and take care of it like it should have been, and they were just in a hurry to have it stop bleeding, and the guy not yelling anymore, and they were getting after their guys for yelling. So they didn't want us to use the anesthesia to put them to sleep so we could do anything. They wanted them awake. And it's very hard to work on somebody that's screaming and hollering at you. So.
How do you want to be remembered? How do you want to be remembered?
What, there or here?
Here.
Here? Just as a American citizen, a person that was a mass nurse. People, what'd you do? I tell them, well, you took care of us. You helped a lot of us. That some of them that are here could have been through our units and had to lose arms and legs. And there's quite a few that didn't because of the Second World War, and I wasn't old enough to have been anywhere except with my parents at that time, following my dad different places. So, yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about?
Huh?
Anything else you want to talk about?
I'm just think the young people, it does them good to go in the military, learn the discipline. I know I was used to doing a lot of what I wanted to do, being a girl, and like I'd go with my dad and grandfather rather than stay home with my mom and do things. I preferred to be outdoors doing outdoor things.
Well, man, this is a very good interview.
So that was it. Yeah, I tell my kids, any of them that asked, well, would you let us go? I said, I wouldn't let you go at a young age, but after you got out of high school, if that's what you wanted. I said, your dad and I'll sign the papers, you can go. I've got a son right now, he's on his 23rd year in the Navy. He's been in the Navy for 23 years. He got right out of high school. During the summer of his senior year, he took his basic training. So when he got out of high school and graduated, he went to San Diego and went to school, got his training for what they were going to have him do. And he's just been in the Navy ever since.
What's his name?
Carl
Bressler.
Bressler, yeah. On the Eisenhower.
Yeah. Well, man, this is a very good interview. And I want to thank you for your service and thank you for the interview.
Anything I could do.
And again, this is
I told my folks when I first got home, my dad, what'd you do? And I told him, I says, I learned how to sew up a wound.
Yeah.
He says, you did what?
yeah.
I said, sew up a wound. He says, so if I cut my finger open, and he says, you know how to, I says, yeah, I can sew it up. I says, after we clean it and take care of it, I says, I can close it. I says, hadn't had that much training, but the surgeons would say, okay, close them, because the next one was coming in, so we had to move them off and close up their wounds.
Yep. Well, again,
That was something different.
yes.
I got where I learned everything that they do in the surgery room.
Yeah.
So when I've gone in and had to have surgery, I've never been afraid or worried about anything. I figure the nurses, they know a lot and
Yep. Well,
know
again,
how to take care of the patients like we did. So you learn
again,
a
I
lot.
want to thank you for your service and thank you for the interview.
All right.
And this is September 11th, 2015.
Yeah.
My name is Joe Todd. This has been an interview with Gayle Bressler of Claremore, Oklahoma. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.